Alright, now that we have one actual drawing done, I think the next logical step is to actually set this up on a sheet. So whenever we're drawing something on a sheet, we are basically adding it into this layout view. So we draw everything in model, and then we use a viewport to look through to model space. We scale that viewport accordingly to what the scale of the drawing is, 1/4 inch. We can adjust the size of this viewport as needed. Turn my O-snaps off. And then I put a title block around this. So what I want to do first is I want the title block to exist as a separate drawing. I don't want to have to draw a title block in every single drawing. So there's a couple different ways that we could do it right now. I'm going to show you, first of all, the one way that we could do it is we could start a new drawing. And we could come into this drawing, and we could create layers, and we could draw our title block, and I think we were going to do a 3/4 inch margin the whole way around with ANSI B paper, so this would be 9.5, this would be 15.5, this would be 9.5, and that would be my title block. And then I could come in and I could start adding some text as well. So I could do this all in a different drawing, or I can do it over here in the drawing that I'm working in. And then I can export it out by creating a block. So we're going to do it this way just because you learn a couple of extra things that are real nice, handy things to learn. So I'm going to create a layer called TB for title block, or we're going to call it G-TB, and the G is for general information. It's not architectural, it's not structural, it's not mechanical, it's general. I'm going to do the color. We're going to start out with color 11, which is a pink, and it should be 0.022 inches thick. If we need to adjust it later, we can do that. So I have a layer created, G-TB, color 11. I'm just going to come off to the side and turn my ortho on, and I'm going to draw this up. We're going to say 15. Actually, whenever we're drawing the vertical, that is 11, so it would be 9.5. And then the horizontal is 15.5, and then 9.5 again, and then we'll just close it. And you're probably thinking, well, how am I going to get that to fit in there? And the idea with AutoCAD is you want to be drawing everything actual size. So I drew all this actual size, and I drew my title block actual size. And I'm just going to kind of fudge something in here just to show what a title block would look like there. So before I do anything, I'm going to show you another feature of AutoCAD that comes in very, very handy. It's not exclusive to drawing title blocks. You can use it for all different kinds of things. I'm going to use the Wblock command. I'm just going to type in Wblock. And what Wblock stands for is right block. And all a block is another AutoCAD drawing. So I'm going to choose my base point for this Wblock, or the drawing, and that base point is going to be in this lower left-hand corner. I'm going to select all of these objects. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to go ahead and leave this delete from drawing because I don't actually want it to live in this drawing. And then I'm going to come out, and I actually have a folder, separate folder set up for, look at folders here. I have a separate folder set up for Garage, and I'm going to call this TV, Titleblock. Say save, and I'm going to say OK. And it just disappeared from my drawing. So what I actually did is I just created another drawing. And to prove that, I'm just going to open, type in open, and I'm going to go to that folder, that Garage AutoCAD folder, and now there's a separate file here called TB, and if I open that up, that's that actual drawing. So I could have did it either way. I could have either drew it in the drawing I was in and then W-blocked it out, or I could have started a new drawing altogether. Alright, so the next thing is, again, we're going to go through and we're going to do some text. I'm going to click on my Annotate tab, and I'm going to look at my text styles, and again I'm going to use my annotative text, Roman S, and actually I think we're going to make a new one. We're going to call this Titleblock, just in case we want to change the sizes. So I'm going to use Titleblock. I'm going to set that current, and I'm going to let that as Romans. I'm going to let the paper text height as 1/8 of an inch, and I'm going to let the width factor as 0.85. So everything's really the same. I just gave it a different name. I'm going to close that, and I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of text in, some single line text. And you'll notice that the text is ginormous. It's actually the same size as it is in any of the other drawings. The only difference is all of this stuff around it is much smaller. So what I need to do is I need to come down here and adjust my drawing scale. So whenever I was drawing my building, I made a scale of 1/4 inch equals a foot so that everything could be scaled down and actually fit on the piece of paper. Well, this is set up exactly for the paper. It's 9.5 inches tall by 15.5 inches wide, so it does not need to be scaled down. So the scale that I'm going to choose is 1:1, actual size. So again, if I come up here and I do some text, and I come in here and choose a location to start the text, choose 0 rotation angle, hit enter. Now whenever I do text, it's the actual size that I need it to be. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out what different things I want to have in here for my text. I'm just going to do a very, very simple title block. So I'm going to have, and I think what we'll do is we'll run it vertical. So I'll just use my rotate command, click rotate. Again, I'll go back and redo that. Rotate, or RO enter, select my text, click on it, turn my ortho on, or I could just type in 90. My ortho's on, I just point up, left click, and it's rotated. So I'm going to have a few different things. And I'm just going to copy some of these until I figure out what exactly I need. So I'm going to have a drawing title. I'm going to have a project name. I need to have the date on the drawing. I need to have drawn by, who actually drew the drawing, and checked by. And I think that's going to be good enough for a very simple title block. So we may be able to just fit this all right along the edge. So text has some really nice features in AutoCAD, and the first thing I want to do is I want to look at what the actual size of this is. I could go back into my text style. I couldn't remember if it was 3/32 or 1/8 of an inch. I think it's 1/8, but I can always type in LI for list, and it'll bring up my screen here that tells me what the actual size is, and the paper text height is 1/8 of an inch. So I want this to fit in between two lines, and I want a 1/16 of an inch gap on both sides. So if I do my math, I have 1/8 of an inch for the text, a 1/16 plus a 1/16 gives me another 1/8, so 2/8 gives me 1/4, so I'm going to offset this line 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to see how it looks. So now I have to get this text placed exactly in the middle of this. So most people, whenever they're just starting out with AutoCAD, they would come in here and they would do that. And it looks pretty good. Well, one of the nicest features about AutoCAD is I can do everything exact. So other graphics programs, it's really hard to do things exact. So the first thing I need to do to make this exactly in the center is this. I can click on this, highlight it, right click, and choose Properties. And in my Properties, I'll find Justify. So this is left justified right now. So I have all kinds of different options, and what I'm looking for is we're going to go ahead and choose middle left. So what that did is it just added another grip. If I undo that, click on this, right now there's one grip for this piece of text. Whenever I change that to left middle or middle left, it adds this grip. So that is the exact middle of that text. It's still left justified, meaning that as I type it starts at the left and moves to the right, but I have a center point to work with. So the next thing that I can do is I can find out where to place this by simply drawing a line from nearest to perpendicular. I just shift right click and choose my snap if nearest isn't set. I can click on this text, I can click on the grip, and then I can put this at the midpoint. And now this text is exactly where it needs to be. So at this point I would fudge it a little bit because I don't know exactly how big those need to be. I would move this down, make it look nice, give it decent spacing, and I would start adding these things in. So instead of instead of doing that same process with all those different things, for checked by, I'm going to copy this, I'm going to bring it out there, I'm going to double click on this text, and I'm going to change it to BWD. I just want to note, if you use M-text, you can't just double click on it to edit it. Then I'm just going to draw a line there that is some separation between those two. And then I'm going to copy these two things with my ortho on, fudge that a little bit, get it close, double click on this, and this is drawn by. And then I would put the initials a little bit closer, and I would copy this stuff again up here, and I might want to do name, or the date now, date, and let's put today's date, whatever it is, no idea what the date is, 1/8-2020. And I think I would leave a little bit of extra room in case I had something with a couple digits in there. And again, I'm going to copy this up here, and I would get this moved a little bit closer. Project name, and I could move that text up a little bit. We'll call this garage. And I think we're going to save the drawing title and put it somewhere else. So I can take all that stuff away. Oops. And then I can trim these parts off. And it's definitely not the prettiest title block I've ever seen, but it is functional. And I might just leave the rest of that in there and come back and make some modifications later on. So once I save this, I'm going to go ahead and save, use my Q save. It's saved as title block. I'm going to go over to my garage drawing. I'm going to click on this layout 1, and now what I can do is I can type insert. This dialog box will come up. I can browse, and I'm going to go to my title block. I can come into my documents. I can find that folder. And I can choose that title block as the drawing to insert. I say OK, it places it there, and then I can pick up this viewport and move it where I need to move it. Now my drawing is inside of my title block in this viewport, and whenever I go to print this, I have a few more things I need to do, but it's for the most part squared away. I am going to create another layer called VP for this viewport, and I'm going to make that color 30 because that's what I usually make my viewport layers. It's an orange, and I'm going to type in PL for plot and then N for no plot. And I'm going to put this viewport on that layer. So now whenever I plot this, even though that shows up there, I'm just going to go through and do a print, and I'm choosing 11 by 17 so that it fits. My scale is 1:1, and I preview this. It should show, it should get rid of this. So as you can see, whenever I do my plot preview, that line that represents a viewport is not showing up because I have the no plot function turned on. And here's my title block, here's the drawing with inside of it. Just to reiterate that, we have our title block in layout 1, and we have all of our drawing, all the things that we draw in model space. The model space is reserved for drawing things. Layout 1 is pretty much exclusively for printing purposes, adding our title block.